Welcome to Informed Insights, the official podcast of Informian.com and your guide to the world of public records and data analysis. Join our host, Fred Pfeiffer, as he interviews industry experts and shares practical tips for navigating the future of digital information.
Jeffrey Schaffer, COO of Phonexa, thank you so much for joining the Informed Insights podcast. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, Fred. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you on to talk a little bit about you, Phonexa, and the future of consumer data. Let's start out with a bit on your background and your road to Phonexa.
Yeah, absolutely. I got into the working world a little bit younger than most, and after cutting my chops in retail sales through my teens, I spent my 20s in various sales roles, predominantly in the financial services space. My first real foray into marketing and lead gen happened by accident, like it may have for a lot of folks. I had started an insurance agency that quickly determined that we were a lot better at generating insurance leads than we were at servicing policyholders. And so in a matter of months, we evolved from retail P&C captive insurance agency to lead gen call center selling warm transfers. Fast forward over about a 2-year period, we grew to having a little north of 1,300 agency clients and some direct carriers as clients as well. Did that for a few years. Telemarketing rules changed circa 2013-ish and pivoted, staying in the financial services sector, into marketing role for a large life and annuity wholesaler for a handful of years. Learned a lot about recruiting advisors and B2B marketing in that world, and also being able to provide value in terms of assisting customers with their own marketing efforts. Eventually, just a little bit before COVID, probably for the first time in my life, I had good timing and had rejoined an old colleague in his e-commerce agency, thankfully right before COVID, when everybody had to make a pivot out of relying on traditional brick and mortar distribution models into direct to consumer with, an emphasis on selling products online. So ran this agency for several years, almost 4 years through COVID, and then found Phonexa. They found me, I should say. And it was really interesting because as someone who historically throughout my career has been the person that companies have utilized to make bits and pieces of technology that probably weren't made to talk to each other in order to implement, best practices with an emphasis on sales and marketing operations. Something really struck a chord with me when I found the company, looked at the tech, saw this sort of all-encompassing performance marketing solution, just really seemed to align with what I was passionate about.
What is your approach to building and managing high-performing teams?
Sure. And this kind of just ties into core leadership principles as well, right? One, and I can't take credit for this, but, hat tip to Ray Dalio, just creating an environment of radical transparency where everybody on the team from the top down is open to receiving critical feedback with the end goal of everyone getting better. So with that end in mind, group mentoring is a huge value. There's a lot of value, of course, in one-on-one coaching and so on, but particularly when building a sales organization or sales team, being able to listen to calls, provide critique in a group setting, ask, person B if they were on person A's call, how would that have maybe been handled differently? And being able to get all of those different collective insights, I think, is of much greater value than just somebody being, barked at and told, hey, this is the way you should have done it, right? Because there's no one way to do a lot of things. Objectivity is hugely important, right? And along the lines of the concept of having that radical transparency, if you can't be objective and take that outside looking in sort of perspective, it's very difficult to self-critique and say, how could we have done these things better? And then, lastly, I would say creating repeatable processes that take into account the variability, the most common variabilities that you're going to encounter, right? Whether we're talking about a marketing workflow, sales call, operational processes and onboarding clients, or even how you handle, getting reviews and referrals, being able to create those processes and plan out in advance, here's the 4 or sometimes 40, right, different ways that something can go, and documenting that and training everyone to understand what the most common flows they're going to see are, and be prepared with all the right answers.
What advice would you give to someone starting out in the performance marketing industry?
There's one thing that I've always found really interesting about this industry. If you compare it to, I'll just say, some of the ones I've been in, right? More in insurance, financial services. This is an industry where I have never seen such a high percentage of high performers that are so open to listening and to sharing their story. They may not give you a lot of time, but it seems like everyone in this space, just by nature of the beast, they've all taken that one call, right? That one cold call, or they met that one person at the show, and it turned into a great business relationship, right? So I think if you're going to be new to the industry, understand that you can't be shy. You got to get out there, make the calls. Don't be an email warrior. Go to the conferences, meet people, understand, of course, who you're competing against and what your value prop is and how you're different, because it is in many ways a very commoditized space. But just know that, you got to get your elevator pitch, so to speak, down. That'd be number one. But that people are really open to hearing you out, even if it's just brief. And if you can understand that and eliminate a lot of the I don't want to say fear, but a lot of the intimidation that tends to come with, approaching a person that may represent a very meaningful opportunity, you're probably going to get your 30 seconds. That may be it. They may not get back to you, but you're going to get an audience. Secondly, I'd say really figure out your model in a way that you can create a low barrier to entry to create that new relationship, right? Whether we're talking about, and I'm not strictly talking lead gen, there's a lot of different parts of this ecosystem, from solution providers like us to the networks and pubs and so on, but make it easy for people to do business with you. And that takes a lot of forms, right? As far as being responsive, responding to inquiries quickly, making it, an easy process from a cost perspective or from a contracting perspective to start that new relationship. And also, it's key, if you're new to the space, it's really easy, and this goes for a lot of industries, it's really easy to just get excited every time someone's going to give you the time of day or be willing to work with you, right? And identifying the true potential and scope of a given opportunity early is crucial, so you don't end up just chasing nickels down the street and maybe stepping over dollars on your way to them. And then lastly, finding and solving problems, right? I don't care how successful somebody is or how big their operation is. And this is an art that takes maybe a few more years of being in business than, what most folks that may be new to the industry have. But really being able to open an exploratory dialogue where you can get the person you're talking to open to sharing some of the pain points and the biggest problems that they may have at that moment, and figuring out, can you solve those problems? And then once you solve them, right, never underestimate reciprocity, right? If you can solve some problem, however small it is, for somebody, you're going to have a much larger opportunity to do more business with them down the road.
Can you share a personal story that highlights your passion for the industry?
Yeah. Years ago, not here at this company, but years ago, I remember I was doing marketing for a financial services firm, and one of the hardest working people there, whose job it was to recruit financial advisors to run their business through them. Very old school guy. We're talking about lead cards, right? We're talking about a stack of paper on his desk, and the paper would go from one shelf to another. And, the guy's probably 25 years my senior at the time, but just stellar work ethic, great salesman, and resisted at every turn the idea of implementing any kind of tech to do anything outside of his normal old cold calling and connecting with people on LinkedIn process, right? LinkedIn was like a big thing to this guy. And I still remember after over a month of poking and prodding and saying, hey, we're implementing this process, simple thing, right? Just funneling clicks and certain levels of engagement of advisors that were engaging with some content we had, funneling that into his world digitally in a way that gave him some pecking order and some priority, and was able to correlate an outbound cold calling talk track to the content that was being engaged with. The most simple thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
To hear this guy who had been, doing things a certain way, very old school, can't be convinced that, technology can make his sales process any better. To see the look on his face and see it like light up and get so passionate, and really actually then having results of improved recruiting metrics and so on, and just making his life easier. I like making salespeople's lives easier, and I've done that a lot with newer salespeople, and they're very open to training and learning, and hey, what new tech do you have for me, and this, that, and the other. But to have that happen on someone that was a little more dated, right, and have them see the light and figure out how to leverage technology to improve their sales process, I'll always remember that.
What are Phonexa's key differentiators in the competitive performance and affiliate marketing software landscape?
Yeah, so first, for perspective, we were born out of the affiliate marketing space. Principals of our company have been in this world for a long time, north of 15 years, and our platform was purpose built for what is one of the US's largest affiliate networks, the largest in terms of the vertical that they're in. So we were born out of this space and have deep roots in it. Because the platform was built initially for a network, it is, in some instances, you would even say over-engineered for your average, small pub. But there's nothing it can't do that you're going to find a competitor can do. We are always building. We have at this point 8 different components to our platform for lead tracking, call tracking, click tracking, the list goes on. And we're rolling out our new dialer or contact center solution in just the next couple months, probably around May of this year. We also have the largest development team of any of our competitors. So when we're getting customer feedback or requests, or I wish something worked like this, or can you build this, the answer is very rarely ever no. It's just a matter of, well, here's how we're going to build it, right? But at the end of the day, our customers, you bifurcate our customers into 2 categories, one being the direct advertisers, and 2 being the whole industry and ecosystem of lead generators and networks to cater to them. Both of them, particularly the latter, are looking for any competitive edge that they can have, right? So when I say, with no hesitation, we have the most robust reporting and analytics that help our customers make better decisions and automate processes, that's the key difference. It's just simply a more robust platform than what you're going to find elsewhere. And the all-in-one component is a huge differentiator as well. Instead of having to have one solution for call tracking and one for web lead tracking and making all these different technologies try to talk to each other wherever you can connect them, our customers are able to get a singular view of everything that's passing through their business and be able to make faster decisions just based on the all-in-one concept.
What are the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the performance marketing industry today?
Well, everybody would think I'm living under a rock if I didn't at least start off mentioning what's happening and coming down the pipe with the FCC's one-to-one consent. And there's a lot of people smarter than me that are having much longer podcasts than this talking about that. So I won't go too far down that rabbit hole. But I'll simply say that as legislation, as economy, as many things evolve and change, personally, I would say that things are going to get a little tighter. Margins are likely going to be reduced. CPL is going to go up. Technology will evolve, and we're in a very agile industry. But there's only so many ways to slice the pie. And so what I see happening is that as you get minuses in some of these columns, or pluses that you could equate to minuses, like CPL going up, businesses are going to have to find other areas where they could optimize, right? So obviously you can't, go on LinkedIn or read an industry publication these days without looking at some new tech vendor that's leveraging AI, be it for SMSing, for IVRs, for conversational AI, for outbound calling, et cetera. And I think technologies like that right now already have traction, that right now already have adopters, although there's a portion of the industry that's always going to be last to adopt and is going to let others make mistakes first, and there's validity to that. But I think as things get tighter, businesses will need to look at other areas where they can improve efficiencies. AI is likely going to be at the top of that list. I also think that as this FCC ruling comes down the pipe, I think you're going to see, and gets implemented, I should say, I think you're going to see a lot of brands that may have historically been fairly reliant on third-party affiliate traffic that are going to say, you know what, we never wanted to run our own in-house marketing, or it was a small portion of what we did, and we just wanted to rely on third-party, affiliate leads, and they're going to potentially take some of those efforts in-house. I think it's going to be a boon for the agency ecosystem. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity as far as digital transformation consulting. And then, not to state the obvious, but we'll state the obvious, separate from advertisers taking those efforts in-house, just in general, there's going to be a huge uptick in the appetite for driving inbound calls.
Can you share some insights into Phonexa's recent growth and future expansion plans?
Yeah, absolutely. Footprint-wise, we're at near 250 employees at this point. We just opened new offices in Canada in the last handful of months, at a time when a lot of companies in our industry are going more remote and less in office. We're doubling down on our commercial real estate investments. We recently, in the last year or so, have grown, now take up the top 3 floors of our building here in LA. So we are very in office, 2 offices in the UK, and just continuing to grow.
What are the most exciting new features or functionalities Phonexa is currently developing?
So I'll talk future state, and then just spend a little bit of time talking about recently deployed features and functionalities. Future state, our contact center solution is going to be a game changer. I come heavily from a call center background in a past life, and so I'm personally very excited about it. It's tough enough when you have 8 different platforms that each on their own could be a different company under one umbrella, to be able to succinctly articulate your value prop and to zoom in on who your ideal customer profile is. And we're going to be broadening that even more with the launch of this new dialer, but I'm excited for it. I think this is, the final piece, so to speak. Not that we'll ever stop building, but this is the final big puzzle piece. To be able to have this truly interconnected, singular operating solution for all things performance marketing. Over the last year, we've had a huge uptick in the adoption of our fraud detection prevention tooling. We have an entire suite within our platform called iClear for fraud detection, prevention, data validation, et cetera. We're seeing a lot more fraud these days than we used to, and we're seeing a greater interest, particularly as more people enter the space, things get more competitive, maybe margins go down, to be able to do everything possible to prevent and detect fraud. We're also seeing a lot more call fraud, which is quite interesting, particularly associated with media buying. So we're working through some partnerships and some integrations to be able to deploy solutions for clients as well.
How does Phonexa ensure its products are constantly evolving to meet the needs of its clients?
Step one, you got to talk to your clients, right? And to my point earlier about building teams, you have to be actually open to that feedback. And our leadership team meets ad nauseum, and we take the feedback from the smallest client to the biggest client, ends up getting distilled and filtered down and presented, right? I can't tell you how many times I've seen us go and build a feature for one very small client, but it's because we know that it's got validity to it and that others are going to use it, right? And that's how you get better. I also, part of my role here is heading up a good portion of our partnership channel. And so by talking to our partners, which at times are sometimes partial competitors, and understanding their world, their business, their ICPs, and what they're working on, I think that gives us an edge as well. And to not be, myopically focused on just what we do, just our strike zone. And just kind of nature of the business that we're in, we talk to businesses that are in so many different industries, and being able to understand, the needs and desires and, what these businesses want for so many different verticals. Like there's just a constant stream of information and input coming to us. So, and then you have all the basics, right? Go to the conferences, talk to everyone, see what trends are emerging, follow, everybody that's moving and shaking on, LinkedIn or wherever it is, and see what everyone else is doing. I think people really underestimate being able to the value that comes with having a very large top of funnel information input into the company, and having key people that are keeping an eye on what others in the industry are doing, and then actually talking about it, right? It's very easy to just read everything and not do anything about it. It's another step to have a culture where, it's open to where everybody's open to collaboration and sharing of, hey, I saw this, I read that, do you think we should do this, et cetera, while staying focused on, what the main goal is.
Can you share a specific example of how Phonexa has helped a client achieve significant success?
Yeah, I mean, one that comes to mind is a network client. The story's in roughly a 12-month period, but to my earlier point, there's a lot of moving parts as far as what our platform does. And some of it is, engineered to a degree that is more than what the average, single one-man show publisher is going to use. But for networks that are able to leverage things like our traffic flow reports, comparison reports, use all the different components of the system to be able to prevent fraud and so on, look at post counts, lead errors, timeouts, everything, and be able to actually connect the dots to make better long-term decisions as far as what publishers they should be working with, where different leads should be going, et cetera. This network in a 12-month period alone ended up with a 25% increased revenue and 30% reduced lead fraud, right? I'm talking about month over month growth in some months of 15, 20%. So that's not an unusual fact pattern. When you look at a customer that is really, really using all of the relevant parts of the platform and has a team that's qualified to leverage that data and make those business decisions, you can see some amazing things happen.
What are the biggest pain points Phonexa helps clients solve, and how do its solutions address them?
As I mentioned earlier, we cater to a lot of different industries, a lot of verticals. That's part of what makes this an exciting company, an exciting part of the industry to be in, is that it's very rarely the same story, from one meeting to another. For direct advertisers, they're going to have generally a different set of pain points than, a network's going to have. But in short, we're providing a singular suite of solutions that provides greater transparency into marketing activities, provides actionable insight and delivers that faster with reduced operational loads on those companies to make more profitable decisions, in short. And being able to do so across multiple different channels, multiple different communication mediums, be it call, web leads, et cetera, is powerful. But the thing that I always lean into, and this is a pretty common conversation because, as I've said before, it's a very robust platform. And I'd be dishonest if I said that, everybody looks at the platform and says, we're going to use all of this on day one. But the idea that you can not outgrow the technology decision that you're going to make is huge. You do not know today how your business is going to look in a year. You don't know. Maybe right now you're just doing inbound calls for, 5 buyers. But if, 2 months, 3 months from now, you want to start doing some SMS, or next thing you know, you have a great opportunity that you have to move quickly on for web leads, or regulations change like they are right now, and all of a sudden you have to make a pivot, knowing that you have one solution, one platform that's you're never going to be able to outgrow, no matter how your business grows, is huge. And I just think of, all the customers that we've had that said, at day one or when they became a client, they're only going to use this one part of the platform. This is all I'm going to use. This is my business. This is what it looks like. And then fast forward 6 months later, maybe they needed to be reminded 3 times, but it's like, oh, they're going to start using this part and that part because there's an opportunity. And the cost of not being prepared to capitalize on an opportunity is huge. You never know what you could have, would have made and who you could have been working with if you weren't ready for it. So I'd say one of the biggest value adds we provide our customers is to future-proof their business.
What is your biggest piece of advice to young people just starting out on their journey in the business world? And what are some of the news sources that you use every day?
Yeah, so I'll answer those in opposite order. As far as sources for business news, I'm a voracious researcher, and I subscribe to a lot of things both within our industry and outside of it. I remember years ago, this is a little long-winded, but years ago, I remember when The Apprentice came out, and I was like 18 years old. And I remember I took the day off to go audition for it. And I thought I was, God's gift to sales and was just going to be, the youngest person ever picked for the show. And I remember being sat down at a table with, 4 or 5 other people, my senior, and the moderator. This was unexpected. This was unplanned. But the moderator and the model, what they did at the time is they picked a current event, picked something going on in the world, and made it an open forum for everyone to discuss everything. And I didn't know anything. I had no idea what was going on. I thought, I could sell anything to anybody, right? Full of piss and vinegar at that age, but I didn't know what was going on in the world. And if you're disconnected, right? Maybe not at that level. It's an extreme example, but if you're disconnected from what your industry is doing, trends, et cetera, it's going to give you put you at a major disadvantage. So be a voracious learner. Follow those that are successful. We have this, wonderful, world of LinkedIn now that, although it can be a bit oversaturated, certainly is a great source of information if you actually, follow people that are putting thought into what they're writing. I'd say definitely stay abreast of legislative changes and any legal matters that impact your industry. As far as advice to those that are just starting out, sales is a great equalizer, and even if you're not in sales by profession, you will be judged largely on the quality of your verbal communication skills. And if that's a skill you're great at, get better at it. If that's a skill you're not great at, you better get better at it. Because whether you're, behind a keyboard for 90% of your day, or you're talking to people for 90% of the day, or you're completely behind the scenes, but you have great ideas that you need to sell internally and you need to get buy-in, be it from an investor, from a manager, whatever the case is, you need to know how to communicate. And understand, last piece of advice I would say, understand the why. If you're operating in an organization, it's not your company, but if you're operating in an organization under someone's mentorship, et cetera, understand why things are being done a certain way. There's a big difference between just knowing how to do something the way that it's prescribed and understanding the why. Because if you understand the why, you'll be able to fill in the gaps when you may not necessarily know what to do next if you understand the bigger picture of why.
Jeffrey, I can't thank you enough for your time today. This was a fascinating conversation, and I really appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge and insights. How can people find you?
Best way to get a hold of me, just go to Phonexa.com. You can send an email to sales@Phonexa.com or directly to me, Jeffrey, Jeffrey, @Phonexa.com. And Phonexa is spelled Phonexa. And you can stay up to date, follow our LinkedIn, and see what conferences we're going to. If you're in the Los Angeles area and you're looking to enter this space, definitely reach out. We're growing and we're hiring.
Thanks for listening to Enformed Insights. To learn more or listen to another episode, please visit Informian.com.